All right, the 140 questions. I just have a few of my own. Why does Truth Be Told ask questions on YouTube instead of going to his parish priest or emailing any number of Orthodox scholars? Because anytime I had a serious question about something, first go to my parish priest. Well, first, usually I'd ask other Orthodox Christians, right? Um, Personally, or maybe reach out to them on, well, it was YouTube didn't exist back then. And then I go to my parish priest. And then even later down the line, I'd actually email various bishops about questions that I had, or where could I find this, or where could I find this information, because asking questions on YouTube, there are trolls out there, and there are many uneducated people. All right. Second, um, well, before I ask the second question, there's a site called earlychristianwritings.com, and it's translated. Well, let me describe it to you. It has almost every pre-Nicene Christian document, as well as almost every pagan and Jewish source mentioning Christ or Christians. And most of the texts on there have multiple translations, and they're done by There's Roberts Donald. Let's the Didache, for example. Roberts Donaldson, English translation by J.B. Lightfoot, English translation by Charles H. Hull, um, English translation by Kersop Lake. Um, it says resources, Robert Donaldson, introduction, Weiss introduction, or Weiss introduction, um, and there's many more. And then offsite links, English translation by Ivan Lewis, and goes on like this. Um, earlychristianwritings.com, as New Testament, the books in the New Testament, the Apocrypha, Gnostic, Church Fathers, as well as other, right? Because I've noticed he cites, say Polycarp said this, or I mean, the 140 questions have things like, it claims that some of the church fathers praised certain things, and it's like it's out of context, or But I noticed that the scholars that he's citing are people like J.N.D. Kelly and John Wesley. Has he actually ever read any of the early Christian writings, or merely read modern scholars writing about the early church? Um, just as I criticize atheists for using um, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. Um, Reading what Dale Martin or Marvin Meyer or Elaine Pagel wrote about what they concluded the early church was like is not, or how they interpreted certain statements made by, say, Irenaeus of Lyon, is not the same thing as reading Irenaeus of Lyon. I mean, if you were to read um, Bart Ehrman and not actually be well schooled in what he's talking about, you would think that the New Testament is totally unreliable, where he admits it's the most reliable set of books that we have, set of texts that we have from the ancient world. It's the most reliable. The only problem is in these minor things that don't change the theology of anything. But he believes that it should have been preserved perfectly, like the Quran, which is ridiculous. Well, if it's from God, it should there shouldn't be any question in the translation or in what the original text said. There should be no, every text should be identical, even though 99% of the texts say this, and a few of the texts say that. So there's a variant. There should be no variance, which is ludicrous. Many of these questions, Jack Frost, I'll get back to him. 46. Why do Orthodox monks wear black robes? Since in a cult, the black robe represents the planet Saturn. Is that a serious question? Wear black robes. It's black. Black robe represents the planet Saturn. Says who? And do you know why they went from wearing white to black? It was the invasion of Islam. It was the solidarity and the mourning of being conquered. And also black is a symbol of death. Yeah. So, but according to who represents the planet Saturn? Where is your ancient Roman document? The people who worship Saturn is saying this. Does the Orthodox doctrine of theosis teach that man becomes infinite? If yes, hold on. He converted to Orthodoxy, right? Why wasn't this dealt with at catechism class? And infinite. Let's see how it plays out. If yes, how do you respond to the fact that finitude can never become infinity? Anything that becomes is always finite. Infinity is and finitude are two mutually distinct metaphysical things. God took on human form, finitude, and he did. Exactly. The answer is no. That's why when somebody says, why, you don't believe that the soul is eternal? And I said, no, the soul of man is not eternal, it is immortal. Eternal would mean it exists forever. Immortal means it has a beginning and dies. But see, it says if yes. I thought this would be like a kind of trick thing. If no, then I wanted to see what the if no was, but no. So yeah, are these actually honest questions about orthodoxy, or is this to throw doubt into people who were thinking about becoming Orthodox or who were baptized in the Orthodox faith? And number 49, let's just go. Is it true that Peter the Great and Catherine the Great westernized Russia, and that Catherine brought Western art and abolished torture? Did the Orthodox ever use torture? Well, Peter the Great and Catherine the Great were terrible human beings. And yeah, they brought in a lot of Western shit. I mean, Peter the Great did away with the Muscovite crown, and I mean, it still exists, but he made his courtiers speak French. He actually wished he could be a captain of an English, um, you know, naval fleet or an admiral. Um, he just wanted to be an English sailor, basically, and he adopted a lot of stuff from Versailles. Um, Catherine, again, she was an imperialist. Did the Orthodox ever use torture? Um, did the Protestants ever use torture? Did the Catholics ever use torture? Every human being, just because an adherent to a religion may be a serial killer or an adulterer or a murderer, which there have been serial killers, adulterers, and murderers in Zoroastrianism, Sikhism, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, um, any on and on. Then, yeah, there have been Orthodox people that were bad people. Do you know in the Catholic Church, for example, the mafia, there were members of the mafia, um, baptized, made their first communion, were confirmed in the Roman Catholic Church, and had a Roman Catholic burial, Roman Catholic wedding, and then had a Roman Catholic burial. Um, and they were members of the mafia. In fact, the majority of them, in fact, all of them, but they were evil, evil men. Um, when I see photos of old monastics, they are rarely smiling. Either they have no expression or are frowning. The Buddhist, this is number 50, the Buddhist Dalai Lama and the Buddhist monks seem to be frequently smiling. Why is this? I recently read that the Buddhist teacher who said people should never follow a spiritual teacher who does not smile. Um, First of all, in old photos, nobody smiled. It wasn't because you had to um, you had to keep still like it, a million ways to die in the West. It just wasn't the thing. It wasn't dignified. In Poland, people don't smile. They think you're an idiot if you go around smiling. It's a cultural thing. And every monk I've met has smiled at me, um, just because it's a different culture. And the Dalai Lama. So now we're not only using Jandy Kelly and John Wesley, we're using pagan, the wisdom of pagans to conquer orthodoxy. You're resorting to that, huh? Hey, did these wicked emperors like Peter the Great and Catherine the Great, the Orthodox people do not like at all, did they use torture? Well, we don't like them, and yeah, probably. I think Catherine the Great definitely did. Um, I mean, Ivan the Terrible used torture. He was Orthodox, by the way. He was a very evil man, um, not a saint, and neither were Catherine or Peter. Um, and now we're going by the Dalai Lama. You ever, I mean, all of the Buddhists, all of the Orthodox monastics I've met, except for one who I didn't like, um, smiled. So I don't know what you're talking about. Josiah Trem certainly smiles. He's a great teacher. He's not a monk though. Um, why does the Orthodox Church call priests and monks father when Jesus said, "Call no man"? Oh my gosh, this is not a serious question. Everyone knows the answer to this. I mean, they actually have pamphlets in every Orthodox parish that says, um, "Call no man father," and then question mark. They act. I'm going to bring one home next. This when I come back from church, I'll show you it. This is not serious. If this was an actual question, This is one of the most commonly asked questions, like bar none, one of the most commonly asked questions. Why does the Orthodoxy discourage trust in dreams when Scripture says God speaks to men in dreams? Said young men. Well, Joel 2:28 was referring to Pentecost, a period of time. Not to mention that we distrust, not dis, we discourage trust in apparitions, dreams, and hearing voices because we know people have psychological ailments, right? And that and that demons and even the devil can come in an angel of light, as appearing as an angel of light. So if it's anything that contradicts the gospel, yeah, it should be discouraged. That you shouldn't trust that. You should flee from it. But if it's true, it's true. There are many times within the history of Orthodoxy where saints have appeared to people in dreams, or Christ. So I don't know what. Again, this is someone who is completely ignorant. This is why I don't. Either truth be told, these are not his actual questions, and this is questions from somebody else. Um, Eugene Rose, later known as Seraphim Rose. Let me stop you right there. How many videos have been made against Seraphim Rose? Not to mention he was Rocor. He used to be an active homosexual who took a lot of LSD, smoked a lot of pot, used a lot of psilocybin, and he crafted what we know now as the toll houses. Not to mention, he died as a schismatic. He died in schism with the Eastern Orthodox Church. So how does that even apply? Truth be told, I thought you were Eastern Orthodox. How, 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 how? I mean, this is why I question if truth be told is actually Eastern Orthodox, or if he's just an agent of, and when I say agent, just someone because the before Vatican II, the Roman Catholic, there were many Protestants swarming into the Roman Catholic Church. After Vatican II, the Catholic Church has been hemorrhaging members. Currently, the Protestants have been getting very, very scared of people entering the Orthodox Church. This stuff, which is basic stuff that you should have learned during catechism class, or there are pamphlets at every single Orthodox church that deal with this for any newcomer that just walks into the parish. Not to mention that, I mean, there's black robes being representing the planet Saturn. Says who? And then when things get cited, um, the scholars that are cited are either Seraphim Rose, who's part of Rocor and died in schism, um, and came up with one of the worst heresies we know of in modern times, but are J.N.D. Kelly, John White. They're Protestants, the people who are hostile, um, and you can tell some of this. I mean, and have you ever actually? I mean, the translators at earlychristianwritings.com are Protestants, but you can, since there's a translation by these guys or these guys or these guys or these guys, sometimes centuries apart, but into English. If you don't trust one, you can read the work 5 different times. That's why, sometimes I suggest people use multiple translations of the Bible to get the feeling of what was actually said. But I think the NASB does a good job at translating, as well as the New American Bible, which is the Catholic one in English. So 140 questions about Orthodoxy, but not um, real questions. Just let's discourage. These are asked in a way or phrased in a way where they don't want an answer to. There's dialogue not wanted. Answers not needed, because it's just trying to discourage. Oh, you want to do Orthodox? Well, then, I mean, this is just rhetoric. And I would love to speak with Truth Be Told, but looks like that's never going to happen. But I would encourage him to go to his parish priest. Only problem, when was the last time he went to his parish? Does he actually have a parish to go to? And why doesn't he email Josiah Trenum with any one of these questions? Just a few at a time, just a couple at a time. Because when I answered his questions last time, he just rejected them all straight off the bat. The Didache not being written in the 1st century, but in, like between the 4th and 6th centuries. And then somebody months later saying, oh yeah, but that, I can never pronounce it wrong, Didasilica, I believe, or is a bad pronunciation of it, which is an expanded, reworked form of the Didache, does come from centuries later, like between the 4th and 6th century. And I said, yeah, but the Didache is from the 1st century. At the very latest, scholars will put it at the very beginning of the 2nd century, which is the early 100s. At the latest, maybe 120. But it's from the 1st century. So earlychristianwritings.com. That's why when anybody asks me finding out about the early church, what's a good thing to read, go to earlychristianwritings.com. Even the Gnostic garbage, see what they were, because you can, everybody said Irenaeus of Lyon, he was a liar, there is no Gospel of Judas, you just made that up. Well, they found it just a few years ago. They were shocked to find it, and guess what? Irenaeus was correct. It was just as wacky as he claimed it was. Peace to you. All right, take it easy. It's sad, and I'll pray for Truth Be Told, but the Dalai Lama and Buddhists, well, they said you should smile. I mean, they're great authorities on, Christianity, right? Aren't they? Oh, wait, they're not. They're experts on Buddhism. And not knowing why people didn't smile in old pictures. Look at any old picture. It's not, from the 70s, pictures could be taken, and it only was just a second. So it wasn't, you didn't have to stand there for 5 minutes. People didn't smile. So yeah, in old pictures, monks aren't smiling. Nobody's smiling. And then also, there's cultures. Walk around Poland, and in America, how we usually smile when we see somebody, or if we're uncomfortable, they'll think you're stupid. Plus, staring isn't rude over there. People will stare at you. hey, there's this cultural idiosyncrasy. Therefore, the Dalai Lama and the Buddhists who reject Christ, who reject the idea of a soul, who reject Creator God, um, you know, they, they're those guys, yeah, they should be trusted more than about in spiritual matters more than people who profess faith in the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ and the Trinity and hypostatic union. Oh yeah, and about Orthodoxy, let's go with John Wesley, who wrote, hundreds of years ago and didn't know much about Orthodoxy, and J.N.D. Kelly, who is an active enemy of Orthodox Church and Roman Catholic Church. I mean, are these actual questions, or are they questions that you're not supposed to get an answer to? It's supposed to be be um, be rhetoric against people joining the Orthodox Church or enticing them to leave. Peace to everybody out there.